Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dealing with Difficult Students. I know we've been in class for 2 weeks, but I feel like I need to greet you since this is the first time that I've seen you face to face, at least in cyber world. I want to take you through a few comments about our discussion from the last couple of weeks, and I'll try to do this as quickly as possible. I really want to respect your time. One of the great things about online is you'll be able to watch this video at your convenience and then respond to it. This week's actually kind of light, week 3, because we'll just basically have this video and then one other set of questions that you will answer. We talked about punishment quite a bit in the first couple weeks, and really what I'm trying to get at is you thinking about or reflecting on your philosophy in dealing with difficult students. Even when you have everything in your classroom set up in a way that lends itself to good behaviors, you have the routines, the procedures, you clearly communicate your expectations to students, you reinforce that regularly, you're going to have students that are going to have difficulty with appropriate behaviors. They're going to be difficult to deal with, and that's what this class is about, is trying to help strategize for how we can address those situations. One thing we need to understand from the beginning, though, is that there's a lot of things we can't control. The only thing we can control is our own actions and behaviors. And yet we owe it to all of our students to teach behavior. Really, all behaviors can be categorized into two categories: learning behaviors and non-learning behaviors. And what our job as a classroom teacher is to increase the number of learning behaviors and decrease the number of non-learning behaviors. And that's for all students, not just the ones who are difficult. And we're the independent variable. We're the ones whose actions are causal. We have to figure out a way to cause students to demonstrate the behaviors that we're looking for. So punishment, that's one way we can go to try to cause them to have the behaviors we want. However, research has shown, John Hattie did a study, that punishment really is a low impact strategy. It does have an effect, and we talked about that, and I would have to say yes, punishment does change behavior. It may change it for the good, it may change it for the bad. It does change behavior, but it's probably not as powerful of a behavior changer as some other ways that we might go. Probably a term that we're more comfortable with is consequence. We prefer to use that term because it is, it doesn't, punishment tends to have a little bit of a connotation of anger or revenge and that kind of thing, and we don't want to go there. And it also, it's sort of punishment, sort of a power over type of a language. Whereas consequence might be more of a, trying to have power along with the student, power over versus power with, that terminology. The truth is we can't count on the punishment to change the behavior in isolation. Its punishment will not necessarily change the behavior, at least to the degree that we want by itself. Now, younger students, they may need more punishments than older students. It's hard to reason sometimes with a preschooler or maybe a child who has special needs and doesn't understand their reasoning. You're going to use more behavioralist techniques with them, and as kids grow and learn, we're going to give them more responsibility and we're going to do more cognitive coaching. The article you read was very much on one end of the spectrum of everything's a discussion. We're going to talk about it. We're going to cognitive coach about everything. I'm probably over a little bit from that. We're definitely going to need to have some consequences, but we also don't want to neglect the discussions. And the relationship is so critical to having success with any human being. That is really very, very important. One of the resources that I included in your Angel, to actually just under resources, kind of at the bottom of the lessons tab, is this particular handout, Ingredients of Effective Adult-Child Relationships, Win-Win. That's really what we want, is win-win relationships. And you might look through this and check it out. It gives a pretty good detail of how, we want to motivate cooperative behavior. When it's win-lose, my needs overshadow your needs, the teacher over the student. So it's a win-lose situation, and that would be a power over. And then there's also the permissive teacher. These teachers tend to really struggle with classroom management. And that's where the students' needs are allowed to overshadow the needs of the teacher. And then ultimately, what we're really looking for is cooperative relationships where it's a win-win. Certainly, this is easier with students who are compliant, who just come into class ready to participate actively, and they want to learn and those kinds of things. But really, for all students, this is what we're trying to get, is where both the teacher and the student's needs are being met in the classroom. Going back, Love and Logic talks about the misbehavior cycle that we see sometimes, and this sort of goes along with why punishment may not be a good thing. If you start up here, you can see student misbehaves in class. Looks like Johnny's pulling Susie's hair. Then the adult shows anger or frustration. This may not be Johnny's first rodeo. He may have been disciplined about this several times. That leads to frustration on the part of the teacher. It's inevitable. But the best teachers are going to, not get angry or frustrated with Johnny. And I'm not saying that would never be appropriate, because it might work with some kids, but typically, we're not going to show anger or frustration. Instead, we're going to show empathy towards the child, and I'll talk about that in just a second. But anyway, since we show anger or frustration, the student then has this perception of authority figures that's not good. The most powerful people in my life can't make me misbehave. That student then has a negative self-concept. These adults can't make me behave. I must be pretty hopeless because I'm not successful. And then that just leads to more misbehavior. So we have this cycle, and I think it's pretty accurate based on what I've observed from my years in education. So Love and Logic is going to say, okay, when we get here to this part, instead of reacting with anger or frustration, we're going to show empathy. We're going to be a friend to that child. I'm sorry that this behavior happened. It's still unacceptable. We're not going to approve of it, but we're going to show empathy that, I'm sorry you made that choice. That really makes me sad, which it does. And try to verbalize that a little bit, which is kind of along the lines of what the author said in the punishment-free article. But then I do think that Love and Logic is going to say, hey, we need to give a consequence for that. It needs to be natural. It needs to come from what happened. In this case, it might be, you probably need to, what do you think needs to happen next, Johnny? Given what happened, I'm really sad about what happened. I noticed Susie's sad. What do you think needs to happen next? And hopefully Johnny will say, I probably should apologize for pulling her hair. And then the adult can continue to coach and say, Johnny, this has happened before. Can I count on you that this won't happen again? Because it really makes me sad. And when you make bad choices like this, so you're hoping to coach the kid through it so that you're getting the behaviors that you want. Okay, so to summarize, we know that punishment has got to be part of, or consequences would be a more friendly term, it's got to be a part of your practice. But in this class, we're going to try to look at ways to make that more effective, where we're not relying on punishment or consequences. We know that's part of it, but we're going to be much more savvy and strategic in trying to come up with ways to address these behaviors where it's going to really be productive and be win-win for the student and the teacher. Relationships. That is really what it's about. We want to get to a point where the students want to please you as the teacher, even when you're not watching. You've got to make the child want to please you. One quick little story here. It's often when students come into my office and there's been a problem with a teacher, they've been disciplined or they're crossways in some regard, that the student will report to me, well, Mrs. So-and-so just doesn't like me, or Mr. So-and-so, he hates me, that type of thing. They have a belief, and it's, I believe, a sincere belief that the teacher does not like them. And that's a problem. I don't really believe that that's the case, that I think the teacher probably does like them. They probably just don't like their behaviors. But to the child, to the student, the perception is that my teacher doesn't like me. And so we have to, as educators, make sure that we're communicating that we accept the kid, that we accept the student, because that you're not going to get a very good result for sure if the student believes that you don't like them. So I'm going to close things for now with just the idea that motivating those cooperative relationships with all students, making them believe that you want them to be successful. That's a good start for dealing with those difficult behaviors that you encounter.